Hey guys, welcome back to my garden. My name is Rachel and I've been gardening here for a few years now, and today I'm going to show you all the things that are going on in my garden. Less than 3 years ago, this entire garden was just a lawn. And today it is really shaping up to be a very productive garden with not a whole lot of effort. As a lot of you returning viewers will know, I am very, very busy. So the amount of effort that I have to put into this garden is not a lot. Sometimes things get forgotten, sometimes things go badly, but mostly everything turns out okay. So I hope that any new gardeners watching this can be inspired that they can have a productive garden without spending hours and hours doing back-breaking labor in the sun all summer. The first thing we're going to look at is the tomato row. I don't know if y'all can see all of those tomatoes. Last week I picked quite a few, and it is time again to pick some more. I've got my trusty red truck basket that my dad made for me, and we're going to come through here and look for tomatoes that need to be pulled. It is getting pretty hot outside, so it's a pretty good time to go ahead and pull tomatoes. We've got some Black Beauty, that is just like some spiderweb in there. Further on down the line, we also have some Cherokee Purples, some Amish Pastes. These are actually looking really, really good. Oh, hello, Kata. The first fruits weren't quite as massive, but that is a really good sized tomato. I've got this one tagged as being able to save seeds from it, but I think it might be this whole branch because I had a whole like little cluster of flowers that I protected. Wow. Look at these. This tomato has a spot that kind of looks like sun scald to me. You see how it's like just kind of brown and pale, like this pale brown color? It is probably sun scald because I do prune back a lot of the leaves on the lower bits of my tomato stems. This prevents a lot of the disease that comes from the rain hitting the soil and bouncing back up onto the leaves, as well as just kind of promoting airflow and making it possible for me to grow things like basils and other herbs right underneath my tomatoes and make the most of this space. But anyways, the sun scald, it's not very pretty, but it doesn't change the edibility of the fruit at all. I will often pick tomatoes a little early, just because of the splitting that can sometimes happen. When your tomatoes are full size, like this, for example, this is a full size, you can see that they're starting to turn just a tiny little bit. If the plant gets rain right now, these fruits will try to swell, but the skin has sort of thickened up a little bit, which causes these little tears in it when the fruit tries to swell from the rain. So a lot of times I will pick my tomatoes just a little early to prevent this, but when this does happen, oftentimes you'll see like these ones have healed up a little bit, and that's fine. These deeper ones, sometimes they do get like moldy, and as long as you catch it early and cut that part of the tomato off, it usually doesn't make a big difference. This tomato is squeezed in here in between the bars. I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to get this out without tearing it apart. Oh, that's really sad. Maybe I'll leave that one there for when I actually need a tomato, like right this second, and I'll go ahead and pull it and cut it immediately. This is maybe my most interesting looking tomato. Pretty sure this is an Amish paste that has just completely fused. Like, I don't know, this has got to be like 5 or 6 different fruits all fused together. And this entire plant really is just full of fused tomatoes. And even though they're like big and kind of pretty, I probably wouldn't save seeds from a plant like this because like the bottoms here result in a lot of wasted fruit. So beautiful from the top, not so practical. The calendula that I planted here is finally starting to bloom. Look at those gorgeous flowers. And you can see there's a lot more coming. So as we're coming back to the front, this is the second row here. I would normally walk down this way, but this entire area has started to jungle out. Last year this area was unwalkable because of all the pepper plants. This year it's unwalkable because of tomatillos. And I have been pulling tomatillos, storing them in my fridge. If you didn't know, when you're harvesting tomatillos, usually you'll look for this paper husk to turn yellow, and oftentimes the fruit will just drop off the plant when it's ready. But if it's looking yellow and you can just like gently tug it off, that's a little preferable because then you're not trying to hunt on the ground for ones that maybe bugs have already gotten to. And down here are some of the shells of ones that I left because like you can see inside, the fruit wasn't fully developed when the thing dropped off the plant, and now they are becoming these beautiful little skeletons, I guess. These little paper husks. They would make really adorable little lanterns, but they would definitely not last very long. So we can come down the other side here and actually take a look. There are a bunch of zinnias flowering kind of in between everything, and I like them for this because you can see like this one, they get really tall. They don't take up like just a huge footprint. They're really good at being in between things. I've also still got my lettuces flowering here. These ones are showing the cutest little puffballs. I still haven't come through and saved seeds from these, but I definitely should do that soon. And these two sweet pepper plants here at the front, one is Ivarski. You can see that pointed pepper there in the back. And this one is a bell pepper type. I forget which kind I planted, but I think this one will turn orange when it is ready. And I'm very excited to have these peppers because I did get a late start on peppers this year. They seemed like just a little stunted and not super happy, but they are bouncing back. And you know, maybe it was just me being a little overly worried for no reason because the tomatoes were taking off and the peppers were taking a little while, but they're looking great. And in a couple of months, I bet they will be like way too big. We are at the part of the summer where things are starting to grow really fast. I've already been harvesting fruits off of these eggplants. This one in particular is a Chinese string eggplant. And I've got, I couldn't tell you the names of the other eggplants I have. This one is more of like a round shape. And then I've got a few others in here that haven't started fruiting yet, but they are getting large really fast. And by the end of the summer, these will be, I don't know, like maybe 10 times this size. They will get really, really tall and start to really spread out and could maybe have like 10 fruits on them at a time. Coming over here, you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the zinnia. This one zinnia did not have anything around it as it came up, and so it kind of fluffed out to fill the space, whereas these other ones did have stuff around them and they've kind of stayed skinnier. So zinnias are really good for just kind of filling in that random space. Plus they will flower basically the whole season. You see I've got these newer flowers, this is an older flower, and there's still like tons of buds coming up. And then past all of that, this is the old corn patch. Sorry, this is the old potato patch that is now corn. You can see the corn has sprouted and it is coming up. I don't even know if it had sprouted by last week, and look how big it is already. And then this one back here, this is ginger. But all of these sprouts are corn. So I think I have a good chance of getting a corn harvest by the end of the year, even though I started my corn very, very late. And then this section back here, I had planted some squashes. So far, only one of them came up. And I, per usual, forgot to label which one I put where. So I don't know which one has sprouted, but eventually I'm going to have to choose one of these because the squashes will definitely choke each other out if I leave them both here. At the very back of the garden I have these sunflowers. I did not plant any of these sunflowers, not this year at least. In previous years I have had a row of sunflowers here in the back, and these ones just volunteered. So I said, sure, you can live there. That's where I would have put you anyway. So I don't know exactly what type they are because I've had a few different types back here, but they are really showing off right now. I mean, look at how tall they are. I am 5'4", and I think these are like almost double my height, so that would be like maybe a 10-foot sunflower. They're absolutely massive. Coming to the front of the third row now, there's this sunflower that also volunteered here that fell over in a storm like a few weeks ago and has just been kind of existing here sideways ever since. Some of these blooms are starting to make seeds. You can see underneath there those green seeds. Those will eventually turn the color that you expect sunflower seeds to turn. And then this trellis is actually going to finally start filling out. I think last time we did a tour, these vines were like about this height, and this vine has gone all the way up to here in a week. That's like 2.5 feet of growth maybe. These are Chinese red noodle beans. I grow them on this trellis every year, and I really love them, but they took so long to get started this year. Something kept eating the little baby sprouts every time they came out of the ground. And so I had to keep replanting and replanting, but I do finally have them, and they should produce all the way until the frost. I also have a cucumber here. I had planned to have like fewer noodle beans and like a couple cucumbers, but because of the overplanting to compensate for the sprouts getting eaten, I have a lot more than I expected. But I do just have one cucumber plant, and this one is flowering. I haven't seen any fruits on it yet, but oh, there's a little baby fruit. So if that one gets pollinated, we will have our first cucumber very soon. This one holy basil that doesn't really have anything around it has been getting really big. I also tend to pull more from this one because it's like super easily accessible. So that could account for some of its size, because with basils, every time you cut, you can see it will split into two more stems. So it's kind of like a hydra. You know, the more you cut it, the bigger it gets. The second trellis here still looks a little barren, but I can see that things are finally starting to come in. So we've got a blue butterfly pea on this side, a couple of cucumber starts, and more blue butterfly peas on this side. You can see some of the seeds got moved. Like this should be much closer to the trellis. Probably the cats digging around did that. And I think this is another blue butterfly pea sprout, which I haven't planted seeds in ages, so that one is very slow. And then this is a little baby pumpkin that my friend Danica gave to me. And squashes don't normally like being transplanted, so we'll see how this does. But I had been having trouble getting stuff to sprout, specifically along these trellises. So I was planning on having like a whole like little pumpkin thing here in between all of the little blue butterfly peas, and we'll see if that still pans out. This mint I have hanging here is a chocolate mint, and I specifically am trying out a hanging mint basket so that it cannot spread anywhere, and it is protesting a little bit, mostly because it's hard to keep it watered. But I think mints are really hard to kill, and unless it gets super dry, I think it'll do all right. This last section here in the third row is all of the hot pepper plants that I have, and they are finally starting to fill out and make fruits. This is the first fruit of the whole patch. This one is a Buena Mulata. I call this the Clemson pepper because it starts this like beautiful purple color, and then it will ripen to a really bright orange. So when you pick them all together, it is perfect Clemson colors, which for those of you who live around here, you know how important it is to have your Clemson colors. This one is my fish pepper, which usually it is really variegated. Like you can see, most of the time the whole plant will look like this, but this one is a little less variegated than usual. And it will make variegated like stripy peppers, which will be really pretty. Let's see, I don't know exactly what the rest of these are, but we'll find out once they start putting on fruit. Oh, and I wanted to show you guys this one specifically. This is one of those ones that was really sad looking. I completely neglected it, and I planted it very late, and now you can't even tell. Like, there's no evidence of those really yellow leaves, and it's putting on all this new growth. It's looking really happy, and the only reason you can tell that it wasn't planted here with the others is that it is just so much smaller. But I gave this plant another chance, and it is not just surviving, but it looks like it is thriving. All right, and then we're going to start on this 4th row, but we're starting behind the sunflower that flopped over. I've still got kale back here. It hasn't flowered, but it's kind of tough and bitter, so I haven't really been eating off of it. I've just been letting it live its little life. I've got some basils here and some more corn here. This corn is a strawberry popcorn, whereas the other one is a regular popcorn. And honestly, I've had to restrict myself on pulling grass weeds in this area because this looks exactly like a grass, like weed sprout that I get around here all the time. So I have to be very careful because these ones are just like that darker green, whereas the other ones are kind of slightly larger leafed and a little lighter green. So it's easier to tell them apart from grass. But these are all popcorn starts, and I know that because they're in this nice little straight line. Let's see. These are cosmos. They have not been quite as showy flowery as the zinnias, but they are kind of filling that same purpose of being tall, and I think they'll be good to put in between stuff like the zinnias in the future. We've got here another section of sweet pepper plants. And then back behind here, behind the zinnia, is a sweet potato. You can kind of see this vine right here coming all the way to here. I had planted the sweet potatoes back there, hoping that they would kind of floof out and be ground cover protection against the weeds back there. This one over here is starting to do a better job. I don't really care if I get like a ton of sweet potatoes, but I am hoping to get just like a couple and then have some pretty ground cover. Back here is where the poppies were. They are finally ready for me to start saving seeds off of them. What you would do is pop the little top off here, and then the seeds would just like kind of pour out of this little globe. So I need to save some of these seeds, and in this area there should be another sweet potato filling in, and maybe I can throw something else in here, maybe another squash or something, but I haven't really decided yet. How's my Kata girl, huh? You being sweet today? Draco's coming over. He's like, what about me, Mom? Draco is definitely the sweet one most of the time. Kata's a good girl, but she's got a lot of playful energy. Here's an example of one of those grass sprouts that I keep mistaking the corn for. You can see how very similar they look. Alright, now over to this side of the yard. This is my volunteer whatever kind of squash plant. I mowed over some of the grass here because all of the leaves were dead, and I knew that the mower was going to be able to not damage the vine really. I think this vine is damaged from the squash bug damage that was here earlier. There were a couple of squashes here. I pulled both of them. One of them was half rotted from the vine dying, I guess, and then the other one kind of looked okay, but I don't think that it's like fully ripe yet. There's still a couple more with healthy-ish looking stems, and we'll see if they make it all the way, because definitely the squash bugs are getting out of control. My little fig tree seems to still be doing really well. Somebody asked me what I'm planning on doing with this, and I will be honest, I bought this on a whim at a plant sale, and I have no idea. I might just keep it in a pot, because I don't plan on living in this rental house forever, and I hope to maybe take it with me. And it probably, maybe will need to be brought inside for the winter. I'll have to do some research on it. It is a brown turkey fig, so I'll have to figure that out. But it is looking really nice. Over here we've got some very sad looking lavender. It is kind of growing from here, but a lot of this plant has died back. This is coriander seeds, still more that I need to save. I've got this plant here, which I bought from a plant sale labeled as curry plant. Still haven't really figured out the best way to use it in cooking. I've just been kind of adding it to curries. It does kind of smell like curry. Let's see what else. This is sage. I have big bushy parsley here. I'm surprised it hasn't started flowering yet, but I should probably harvest some and do like a chimichurri sauce before long, because it is sort of the time of year that it should start thinking about flowering. My oregano has already flowered, but I find that the taste of flowering oregano is really still just as good as unflowered oregano. And my thyme is finally done flowering and is putting on its newer growth for the summer here. I could probably come through and cut back all of these bits that flowered that then died back. And over here we have the chamomile still doing great. More parsley, another giant kale, chives looking great. These nasturtiums that refuse to die are still refusing to die, and then the new ones that I planted still haven't come up. But this lettuce is trying once again to flower, and because there's nothing else going on here, I'm just gonna let it. Let's see. Yeah, there should have been nasturtium coming up here. This one, not dead, but certainly not super happy. But look at this Greek oregano. It is actually thriving. This is its favorite spot. And then the lemon thyme and the parsley over here are also doing really, really well. This berry patch has gotten completely out of control. All these weeds here that I didn't mow over, that's because there's blueberry bushes in here. You can see like there's its little leaves poking out. I definitely need to come through and weed this. It really got away from me. Strawberries have pretty much slowed down. There's still a few here and there, but not just a whole lot. And blackberries also slowing down, but still making like fresh fruit. So I still have to come through every couple of days and pick about a handful of fresh fruits. But the raspberries are going off. Second huge harvest of the summer. You can see just all that fruit, all these branches are covered in raspberries. So this is going to be round 2 of raspberries for this year. I was told that they weren't supposed to like fruit again until fall. So I'm like kind of curious if I'm going to end up with 3 flushes. Oh, look at that wasp. That's an orange one. Huh. These paper wasps are... Honestly, I used to be so scared of them, but they've never bothered me. They're great pollinators in the garden and really, really great predators. These guys are the ones who are eating like all of the little pest insects that you don't want around. I did actually see a bird on these for the first time. I saw it was a cardinal, and it's hard to tell if it was eating berries or eating the massive amount of beetles that's over there. Hopefully it's the beetles, but honestly, if they're eating the fruits, I haven't really noticed. Like, there's so many of them, plenty to share with the birds, you know? I think last week's garden tour, I came back over here and these guys were sitting here just like this. Draco looks catnip drunk. Yeah, that plant is for you. It's okay. And Kata is just sitting up here on her little high throne. Yeah. Gotta come collect my basket. Alright guys, that is the end of the tour. If this was your first tour, welcome. I do these every single Wednesday, and the theme is kind of real gardening. As you've seen, I really try to show you guys the ups and the downs, the things that are going well, the things that are not going so well, and really focus on talking about things that will help you new gardeners. Had to set that basket down because it was getting heavy, but so those of you who are new, I will leave a playlist up here if you want to catch up, and you can catch me back here every single Wednesday for updates on the garden. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.